Hello everyone, my name is Prajakta Dhage. I am from Department of Zoology, KTHM College, Nashik. So today I will be taking a lecture for MSc Part 2, Semester 3. The subject that we are dealing with right now is Insect Physiology, chapter number 17, and the topic is transport of hormones, and we'll be also looking towards the regulation of hormone titer, and in the same lecture we'll be also studying the mode of action of hormones. Okay, so let's move on to the first part, that is transport of hormones. Now, ictiosteroids are relatively insoluble in water and are probably transported through the hemolymph bound to a protein. Although a binding protein has been clearly established only in Locusta. Okay. Although juvenile hormone is slightly soluble in water in the hemolymph, most is bound to a protein. So, in locus, less than 0.1% of the juvenile hormone is not associated with the protein, and this is probably usual for other insects also. This is important because free juvenile hormone tends to bind non-specifically to surfaces. Its association with protein both solubilizes it and prevents non-specific binding. In many insects, the binding protein is lipophorin. Okay, and although this may have relatively low affinity for juvenile hormone, the large quantities present in hemolymph may provide a sufficient means of circulation. So there are larger quantities in the hemolymph, and this will be enough for the circulation. So in Orthoptera and Lepidoptera, specific juvenile hormone binding proteins are present that are quite different from lipophorins. In Orthoptera is a high density lipoprotein, while that of the Lepidoptera is low molecular weight protein, and this protein is not associated with the significant amounts of lipids or carbohydrates. Orthopterans binding protein has higher affinity for juvenile hormone 3. Okay, the normal juvenile hormone of orthopterans. So this juvenile hormone 3 is a normal juvenile hormone of orthopterans, and it is so affinity is less for juvenile hormone 1 and 2. While the binding protein of Lepidoptera has exactly opposite properties than this. Okay. So the binding protein also gives juvenile hormones some degree of protection. Okay. Protection from what? Some degree of protection from the enzymatic activity or enzymatic degradation. So in Manduca, it protects the hormone from non-specific esterases in the hemolymph, but it does not protect from the specific juvenile hormone esterases. Now the peptides enter the hemolymph in the neurohemal areas or organs formed by terminals of neurosecretory cells. Now once they are in the hemolymph, being water soluble, they require no special transport mechanism to reach their target organs. So this was about the transport of hormones. Let's talk about the regulation of hormone titers. Okay, now hormone titers in the hemolymph are going to vary in specific temporal patterns. Okay, that are necessary for proper regulation of the activities. These variations in titers are produced by changes in their synthesis, release, degradation and excretion. I repeat, the variation in the titer that we see are because of the changes in their synthesis, release, degradation and excretion. Ecdysone is not stored in the prothoracic gland. Okay, its appearance in the hemolymph is going to show immediate synthesis in the gland. Synthesis is going to be often under dual control. It is triggered by prothoracicotrophic hormone or say PTTH, but the effects are modulated, at least in some insects, by an inhibitory hormone and by direct neural regulation, which may be either stimulatory or either say inhibitory. Okay. The competence of the prothoracic gland to respond to PTTH or say prothoracicotrophic hormone varies through the developmental cycle. So in Manduca larva, ictiosteroids and juvenile hormone both affect the production of ecdysone, but their effects are going to be different. During the feeding period of the larva, juvenile hormone is going to inhibit ecdysone synthesis. Now subsequently what will happen? The ictiosteroids produced by the glands will have positive feedback effect, which is enhanced when juvenile hormone is also present. Finally, when the glands are highly active, the ictiosteroids have a negative feedback and contribute to the subsequent rapid decline in hemolymph titer. The rate at which the prohormone ecdysone is converted to active hydroxyecdysone is also different. Okay. So production of 20-hydroxyecdysone is offset by its degradation and excretion as well as by its conversion to conjugated forms which are inactive. As a result, the period for which the active hormone remains in the hemolymph is also limited. So let's take an example. In third stage or third instar stage larva of Calliphora, the half-life period of this hormone is about 3 hours, but in the pupa its half-life is more than 1 day. The conjugates of ictiosteroids are often phosphates or glucosides. In eggs, most of the ictiosteroids may be conjugated except for brief periods when active hormone is present. The Malpighian tubules excrete both ecdysone and 20-hydroxyecdysone as well as various metabolites. Juvenile hormone is released from corpora allata as it is produced. It is not going to be stored. Now its hemolymph titer, which is going to differ through the course of development, is a product of the rate of synthesis and also the rate at which it is degraded or excreted. Estimate of its half-life in various insects are usually less than 2 hours, so that the sustained high titers must reflect high rates of synthesis. Clear? The structure of corpora allata varies in relation to juvenile hormone synthesis. At times of maximum juvenile hormone production, the number of cells increases. Cell organelles proliferate and the enzymes necessary for synthesis also increase, or they are in abundance. All these factors decrease when the rate of synthesis is low, as it is possible that their regulation involves different mechanisms, but see, it is not known. The all over rate of synthesis is regulated by peptides, like say allotrophin enhances synthesis, allostatins decrease it. 5 different allostatins are known from Diploptera, but it is not clear which stages of synthetic process they affect. These peptides are produced by neurosecretory cells in the brain, but their mode of action on corpora allata is not certain. They may act as neuromodulators as at the axon terminals are present in corpora allata, and allostatin receptors are known to be present in corpora allata of Diploptera. They may also act as neurohormones as they are also present in the hemolymph. These peptides are not only regulators of corpus allatum activity. Okay, the sensitivity of the glands to the peptide differs, probably in relation to the number of receptors present. It is not known how this is regulated, but perhaps some independent neural inputs from the brain is involved. There is also evidence that octopine affects juvenile hormone synthesis, enhancing synthesis in Locusta and Apis, but inhibiting it in adult Diploptera. The juvenile hormone in the hemolymph has a feedback. Okay, it's going to have a feedback effect on its production, at least in the adult Diploptera. Low titers enhance synthesis and high titers inhibit it. Factors produced by the ovary have similar effects. And ovary with small oocytes produce a stimulating factor. One with large oocytes an inhibitory factor. The inhibitory effects are produced via allostatins. Whether allotrophins are also involved is not known. Once in the hemolymph, the short life of juvenile hormone is due to its enzymatic degradation. At least in Lepidoptera, its breakdown is catalyzed by substrate specific enzymes and esterases and an epoxide hydrolase. The activity of these enzymes varies through development, and peaks of activity coincides with disappearance of juvenile hormone from hemolymph. In larval Manduca, the esterase is usually dominant, but in mosquito culex, the epoxide hydrolase predominates. The release of neurohormones is presumably controlled by other neurons in the central nervous system. This was about regulation of hormone titer. Now let's move on to other part, which is mode of hormone action. Okay, when hormone reaches a target cell, it initiates biochemical changes in the cell. Okay, but not all the cells are going to respond in the similar way, and some are not going to respond at all. Specificity of hormone is a feature of receptor protein in the target organ. Only those cells with appropriate receptors will be affected, okay, by a hormone. And since a receptor may exist in different forms and be expressed at different times, the hormones can have different effects in different tissues. Clear? Depending on the nature of the hormone, these receptors are in cell membrane or within the cell. Ictiosteroids and juvenile hormones are lipophilic and as a consequence pass readily through the cell membranes. They bind with the specific receptor protein within the cell, directly causing the activation or say inactivation of the genes and the synthesis and also the synthesis of new proteins. The pattern of expression of ictiosteroids in epidermis of Manduca over a period of time, say over a period of metamorphosis, differs from the pattern seen in neurons. Moreover, the expression of receptors on the neurons that will die after eclosion differs from that on neurons that will persist, and possibly there are different types of receptors in different cells. The effect of juvenile hormone in immature insects is to modify the responses to ictiosteroids. It has no effect by itself. Nuclear receptors are known to be present in larval Manduca and their presence varies temporally. In adult insects, however, where juvenile hormone affects sexual maturation and behavior, it acts independently of ictiosteroids. Here, it may function as primer or as regulator of target tissues. As a primer, it acts directly on the nucleus so that the cell becomes responsive to a subsequent regulatory signal, which may be a juvenile hormone itself or another hormone. So let's take an example. The fat body cells do not respond to juvenile hormone, okay, by synthesizing vitellogenin until they have been exposed to the juvenile hormone for some time. The process of priming may include the development of specific receptors in the cell membrane and initiation of transcription. As a regulator, juvenile hormone may act via membrane receptors to activate existing enzymes via second messenger cascade, or it may act at the nucleus to promote protein synthesis. For example, in female Rhodnius, juvenile hormone triggers patency among the follicle cells, allowing hemolymph proteins to reach the oocyte. It is known that juvenile hormone stimulates protein kinases in these cells, presumably via second messenger cascade. The kinase then activates an ATPase in the cell membrane. By pumping sodium and potassium out of the cell, this produces an osmotic gradient, drawing water out of the cell so that they shrink and the spaces appear between them. Now, in contrast, vitellogenin synthesis in the fat body depends on the modulation of gene expression. Peptide hormones and biogenic amines are lipophobic and will not pass through the cell membrane. Specific receptor proteins for these hormones are present in the cell membranes. Via these receptors, they activate second messenger cascades, which leads to the activation of enzymes that are already in existence. The second messengers are often cyclic AMPs or cyclic GMP. These activate or sometimes inactivate specific enzymes via protein kinases. Now, prothoracicotrophic hormone, adipokinetic hormone, some diuretic hormones, and the pheromone biosynthesis activating neuropeptide, which is PBAN, act via cyclic AMP. But the activation of glycogen phosphorylase by adipokinetic hormone appears to involve a different pathway. Eclogen hormone triggers ecdysis behavior via increase in cyclic GMP, accompanied by an increase in inositol triphosphate, although the exact relationship between the two messengers is not clear. A hormone may lead to production or activation of not just one but a suite of enzymes necessary to produce and ensure successful secretion of final product. Let's take an example. Prothoracicotrophic hormone not only initiates ecdysone formation in the prothoracic gland, but it also promotes the production of beta tubulin, which may be important in the transport of ictiosteroid precursors within the cell. In the epidermis, ecdysone initiates the de novo synthesis of dopa decarboxylase and also activates the enzymes which catalyzes the synthesis of phenol oxidase from its proenzyme, making available the essential enzymes for cuticular tanning. Okay, so this was about the mode of hormone action, and for this lecture we are done for this lecture. Thank you so much for listening this lecture.